this is going to be a fairly quick talk because I really only have one slide, death by sugar. Cut it out. The end. So, any questions? Nothing. We'll dig into this a little bit more. I'll give you kind of just a little bit of where we're going with this. So, we're going to talk about, we brought some samples. We're just going to talk about how really overrun our diet is with sugar. We'll talk about some of the different types of sugar, glucose, fructose, sucrose, kind of what it's found in. Briefly, we consume, sugar is killing us. Like it is a huge reason, it's a toxin, it's a huge reason our body is we're going through a lot of the chronic disease that we are. So we want to, part of my thing is to literally scare you guys tonight. Like there's not a whole lot of information here that you're going to go like, oh, that's groundbreaking and that's new stuff. But you know, we're coming up to Thanksgiving, we're coming up to Christmas, and it's, you know, the time of year where we cheat a little bit with our, you know, probably our diets and that sort of stuff. But we're going to talk about how it affects, you know, your insulin resistance type 2 diabetes. We're going to talk about brain function. We're going to talk about cancer. We're going to talk about heart disease. There's 70 things we can talk about that happens inside of the body when we getting fat, right? When we eat too much sugar, hormone balance, when we can talk about tons of stuff. But I'm going to hit the big ones tonight, and hopefully, again, kind of scare you guys a little bit and have this be maybe a little bit of a wake-up call. I'll start by saying this. This doesn't mean, where's Christine? Just so you guys can all see this, I just bought a pie from Christine, okay? So this isn't about being perfect, right? You don't have to be perfect all the time. And it's not, I don't feel like, here's what I would love for all of us to do, that when we make lifestyle changes, and if we can be really good about our lifestyle changes 80% of the time, and then 20% of the time you want to go and cheat, have fun, right? You don't like having, you know, a can of pop now and again is not going to kill you. Having a can of pop every day or 2 or 3, like a lot of people I know, like that's where the problems begin. Does that make sense? So I think you got to kind of know where your weaknesses are. I talked to a gal, and she's, I can't remember who it was, maybe that person's here, but they were talking about how they just love like Hershey's chocolate. It's like, you know, she doesn't eat a lot of bad food, but Hershey's chocolate is kind of the one thing, and she's like, no, I should cut that out. I'm like, listen, if you love that, and that's your one thing, and you really, the rest of it are maintaining a pretty good amount of sugar intake, then have that be your one. Health isn't about being perfect 100% of the time. That's impossible for all of us, right? I think it's interesting. If you look at what we feed most kids, it's amazing we even make it to adults. That just shows you the power of the human body to deal with a lot of this stuff, okay? But hopefully this does spur you on and motivate you to go, you know what, I need to really watch this. And because a lot of the times when the sugar that we consume now and the lifestyle that we're creating, we're not going to see the effects of that until 20, 30, 40 years. And I don't know too many people that are you know, who've been diagnosed with cancer in their 50s or heart disease or, you know, whatever, that maybe didn't wish they lived a little bit differently in their 20s, 30s, 40s. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. So let's go through some of this stuff here. Sorry, you've got, all this is there for you. So a little bit of background. Sugar is a simple carbohydrate, right? Carbs are not a bad thing, okay? There are simple carbs and then there are complex carbs. Does anyone, what's the difference? Simply. Anyone know?
One is found in nature.
Yeah, so how they're broken down in the body, kind of the structure that they're in. Simple carbs in nature, some are found in milk. So some, like lactose is a simple carb, or simple carb, it's a milk sugar is what we call it. So that's found in nature. Sometimes plants make it. You wouldn't necessarily eat a whole lot of it. Yeah, like some of our fruits and that sort of stuff have simple carbs in them. But here's an easier way to think about it. Complex carbs are usually what we call like fiber carbs, right? So when we're talking about carbohydrates, sugar is an example of a carbohydrate, okay? Not all carbohydrates are bad. You can eat as much you can eat as much fiber-based carbohydrates as you want. Okay, vegetables, fruits to a certain extent. If you like, that doesn't mean just eat as many fruits as possible. You have to have a balanced diet because even fruits can be a problem because there's still lots of sugar in fruits. But these and we're going to get to the glycemic index, but fiber-based carbs are not the enemy. What we're talking about today, sugar, simple carbohydrates, are almost always, when you eat them, it was never produced in nature, it was added in after the fact. Does that make sense to you guys? Right? So, most simple carbs are added to foods. Here's some examples. Oh This is way too small, we'll just skip the fun one. Raw sugar. So even I think sometimes we feel pretty good about maybe when we have coffee. I was talking to someone else today and they were talking, they put, brown, like raw sugar in their coffee, and I think we're so like fascinated by the term raw that we think like somehow that's a good thing for us, right? That's still a process. Raw sugar is still it's still a processed thing. Does that make sense? Brown sugar is the same thing. Brown sugar is, I don't really know, but it's less refined, but it's got, what does brown sugar have that makes it brown? Molasses, isn't it? There's another name for molasses. Doesn't matter. High fructose corn syrup, we're going to talk about this one a lot, okay, because we'll get into it. Glucose, fructose, and sucrose. These are all things when you're looking on your labels. Added sugar is going to come in these. This is what you're going to read: raw sugar, you'll read brown sugar. The big one is corn syrup or high fructose corn syrup, okay? Glucose, fructose, sucrose, sometimes they'll put that on there. It sounds better than sugar. Fruit juice concentrate, you'll see that on the back of things sometimes. Here's what's interesting, when you look at your nutritional labels, so I'm going to pass this around just so you guys can see. What you'll see on the back of these things is the percentages of what your total carbohydrates. There's a percentage of what your percentage in a can of Coke, what the total carbohydrates should be. So it allows you to look at this and go, man, that's 20%. What is it? What's the amount of total carbohydrates on here percentage-wise, Christine? 13%. So the total amount of carbohydrates, that can's got 13%. What you will not see beside the amount of sugar is the percentage. Okay, why isn't the percentage of the amount of sugar intake on our food labeling? Not true.
Lobbyists.
Oh.
Right? I'm not kidding you. Lobby groups have made it, they've pushed, because what happens is people actually saw that can of Coke is going to have 150% of the amount of sugar that you're supposed to take from all sugar sources in one day in one can of Coke. That's freaky. Right? And so lobbyists have changed that. And this is the food companies and the lobbyists, they try and trick us by putting different names on this sort of stuff, right? To make it look like we're not getting the amount of sugar in there. Make sense? And these are all these things that you have to look out for. Glucose is the simplest form, okay? Sucrose is a glucose and a fructose stuck together, okay? And fructose is usually that is found in fruits, it is found in nature. It's big in corn, which is where they get, that's corn syrup, is fructose. Okay, but we're going to talk about what fructose does to the liver. Here's the deal. Consumption of our added sugar has skyrocketed. So in about 1830, so 100 and some years ago, almost 200 years ago, the average we consume is about 11 pounds of sugar per year, which is still crazy. I've read research that really we shouldn't be topping, that the human body is genetically designed to top out at about 4 pounds of sugar a year. Okay, so that's where we should. In 1830 it was 11 pounds. Today on average the average American will consume 150 pounds of sugar in a year. Works out to be about 225 grams of sugar a day. 225 grams of sugar a day. That's average. Now you guys are all here right now, you're concerned about this, you're actively participating in your health in a chiropractic office, or at least most of you, right? Probably you're bringing these numbers down a little bit, but this is, if you actually look at teenagers are the highest group. I don't think this really surprises people, but teenagers are the highest group, the highest consumers of sugar, okay? Here's what we're recommending. So we do have a recommendation, but it's not talked about a whole lot. So average adult female, the max that we should be consuming for sugar, this is added sugar, right? This isn't your fruits and vegetables. If you're type 2 diabetes, if you have cancer, then you need to I would cut out fruits even altogether. You want carbohydrates, you want fiber, but you need to get them from veggies because you just want to totally eliminate sugar. And we'll talk about why. For a male, it's about 35 grams a day is what your maximum that you should be taking in from sugar. Okay? You guys are passing, where's the can of Coke?
39.
39 grams. So one can of pop, and that's nothing else. if you eat cereal in the morning, if you have one slice of bread throughout the day, we looked at Subway. What did I say for Subway? Do you remember?
It's like 10 grams. It's over there.
You got it? So it's just the bread from Subway, right, is 10 grams of sugar. So this is, we've got some fun things here. And that was one of the smaller ones, of course, okay? So did we do a normal?
Yep.
Let's pass these around. So there's your normal for men and women. You guys, we do have one bag that says Coke on it. 35 grams, I'm like, that's probably worth quite a bit. I don't know. I grew up in the 80s in Edmonton when we were winning all of our Stanley Cups, and apparently the hockey team had a big cocaine problem, so they probably carried a couple of those around. So anyway, we're gonna go through some of these, so just to be kind of interesting for you to see. So again, 25 grams for females, 35 grams for, and this is what? An adult, right? What really hit me as I was doing the research for this is, and I've included this in here, is the amount of, in some of the foods that we even think are healthy, right? I used to drink those, anyone ever had those like Oswala, green smoothies before, right? Look at the sugar in those things. There's a ton of crack of sugar in them. There's a lot of other good stuff too, right? But there's a ton of sugar to make it taste good.
I thought, oh, okay, yeah, like I grabbed a Naked juice
Yes.
from the gas station one
Yes.
time. 59 grams
Yes,
of sugar.
they're loaded. Yeah, you
And
should.
ingredients were like, fruit juice concentrate, like it
Yeah.
wasn't all just like blended up.
Yeah, no, they add that stuff in to be sweet. So we're gonna do some quizzing here. So we already know this one. 1 can of Coke. 1 can of Coke. You can pass this around, see how much sugar is in 1 can of Coke. Okay? One can, and this is pop. I've seen pop down to 24 grams, 25 grams. I've seen 29 grams. And then there are some that are 45 grams, just depending on the pop that you're getting. Okay? So just careful with this. We don't really buy pop at our house for our kids. I don't let them not ever have it. We go to grandma's and grandpa's, they tend to get pop. I remember this when I was a kid. My aunt and uncle, they had no sugar in their house whatsoever. Like their kids were not allowed to have sugar at their house at all. And then when my cousins would go to somewhere where they could get sugar, they like mentally imploded, man. It was a mess because it was like they were so addicted to this stuff and they never had it. It's like you got to teach responsibility with this stuff. Teach responsibility with Coke. What is this? That's the women, so we're good here. Okay, candy bar, let's guess. What do we think?
Full-size one?
Yeah, so like a Snickers bar. That's what we did, right? A Snickers bar?
25?
It's got peanuts in it, so it's good for you, right?
Yeah.
20 grams in one Snickers bar. Okay. Oh, this one hurts a little bit. Pumpkin spice latte grande. Right? Almost as much as a can of pop. 25 grams.
Is that what size?
Grande.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep. Medium. Medium if you're not a snob. I purposely say medium when I go into Starbucks just to rub the wrong. Just give me a coffee of overpriced pumps. Glass of orange juice. So this is a big thing in our house. This is my little girl loves her orange juice. We water it down. She gets about half orange juice and then half water. Because in 1 8-ounce glass of orange juice, there's 21 grams of sugar.
Wow.
Okay? Added sugar. That's not just like what's in the actual orange juice. You can pass that around.
What if you make it out of real oranges?
Squeeze it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're going to be getting some of the other things in there. This is what's really interesting. Like when you're getting, it's still probably you're still getting a concentrated dose. If you're just going to eat an orange, that's fine. If you're going to squeeze 1 orange and get some orange juice, that's fine. The problem is that we're typically, to get 1 glass of orange juice, Larry, any guesses how many oranges you'd have to squeeze?
6 or 5 or 6.
Right, so that's quite a bit. Right, so you would never sit down and eat that many oranges, and that's the problem with you're getting some fiber in it, and we're going to talk about what fiber does to the glycemic index, and it is important because it affects insulin resistance, but your body still has to deal with all of that sugar that you're taking. Okay? So 21 grams of orange juice. Anyone with kids here? This has been a staple in our house. This is super convenient, right?
I don't buy the sugar ones, so.
Yeah, and you can do any of them because they're literally all the same. So these are fruit, like little squeezy packs. If you don't have kids in the last little while, they're super convenient. You just open it, the kids like feed themselves, and you can go back and watch your soap operas. It's awesome. Or whatever, playing video games. So this is what scared me, is that there's 11 grams in one pack, and and we would buy some, and I would get some fruit ones, and we'd also get some of the vegetable-based ones. But when your kid gets to be, when you start giving them solids, this is a great thing. So maybe a year old. I mean, my Quinn, who's a year old, could go through probably 3 of these, right? That's 11 grams. That's, if he went through 3 of them, that's almost a can of pop that much sugar we're giving him. Okay. So even these little things that we think are healthy, these healthy kid snacks. Okay, 11 grams. Not picking on Julie. I just actually had a Cliff Bar in front of me.
1F.
What?
1F.
1F? Oh, yes. Oh, that's right. Sorry.
I'm just gonna pick on you guys.
Yes, that's good. Not terrible, but 9 grams of sugar. Right? And again, it's not that your body doesn't need sugar. Like, you do require sugar to function. Like, if you had no sugar in your life, that would be a problem as well. Your body needs glucose for cells to function. That's a normal thing. But again, it's just like, if you get up in the morning and you're going to have a glass of orange juice, right? Maybe have a latte later in the day, right? You're going to have one of your green smoothies. Even if you're trying to be healthy, it's so easy to way over consume the sugar. I would encourage you guys, anything processed, if you can get it in a box, there's a good chance there's added sugar in it. Like, I read some articles about some of the things that would really surprise you, like ketchup. Tremendous amount of sugar in ketchup. Barbecue sauce. Ben was talking about
Baked beans.
Baked beans. Right? Just baked beans, but of all the sugar in there to sweeten it. Right? It's amazing how quickly you can add up on the sugar, even when we think that we're actually doing a pretty good job. How about a yogurt? Yoplait yogurt. This is a little cup, a little plastic cup of Yoplait yogurt. 20 grams. Okay? Here's just even the bread from Subway. So even like if you have even the bread or pasta, like to make pasta, you're still adding sugar into flour, right? Flour is going to turn into glucose in and of itself, right? Now there's fiber, not really with white flour. There's no fiber involved. But we're just simply talking about adding sugar in. Here's a Cliff Bar. You spelled it wrong too. 9 grams. Okay, so again, I mean, if we look at this, and if you're not even health oriented, it's not. I know people that get up and have a Mountain Dew as soon as they wake up in the morning. Right? It's like that Mountain Dew is not actually from a mountain, and it's not actually dew. It's like made in a laboratory, people. Like, that's not how you should start your day. Okay? So it's a little bit shocking with how much we actually consume. So one of the things any questions so far? So let's just talk about, I'm going to talk about fructose here in a second. This is just simple sugar. So what happens, anyone heard of the Glycemic Index? So I talked about this at a couple different of our workshops, but this is basically a measurement. It's an index that's given to foods that measures how quickly the food that you eat becomes sugar in your bloodstream. Okay, and this is important because you can eat 2 foods with exactly the same amount of sugar in them, and it can affect your body in totally different ways. Okay, if you eat the simpler the sugar, basically. Okay, so here's like something with high glycemic index. This is like white wheat bread, right? Okay. Fiber is and protein can help bring this down. Okay, but what happens is that this is your blood sugar level, and this is time. When you eat something like have a can of pop, when you even eat like white bread, any simple sugar, what's going to happen is you're getting a huge spike in your blood sugar levels. Okay. And it's bad for your body. That can hurt blood vessels. It can hurt certain things. So what your body does is it releases a substance called insulin from your pancreas. We always think the job of insulin is to put to lower your glucose levels. Insulin, anything that you eat to get into the cells in the body, insulin is like the key that opens up the cells in your body so that what you eat can be put into the cells of your body. Makes sense? So it's used in everything. It's super important. The problem is that when you really release it, when your blood sugar gets up high, you're going to dump a ton of insulin in to then what? lower it back down. Does that make sense? But because it came up so quickly, your body probably, on almost always, dumps in way more insulin than you need. So let's just say that your body likes its blood sugar level right here. Right? There's a certain, and we don't need to know it, I can't remember what it is, 80 to 100, whatever, some blood level that is good for the human body. Okay? When you eat a Mars bar, Snickers bar, it's going to go way up. Okay? Then insulin's going to bring it way down. But the faster it goes up, the faster it comes down. And then you tend to go below what you need, and that's when you get what's called the sugar crash. Does that make sense? So then you crave, then you can get shaky, and then what do you crave? More, and you're gonna crave sugar. Right? Now here's what's amazing is that the human body is actually built to crave sugar and fat. Right? These are two very important things. The problem is that the types of sugars and fats that we can get now come very easily in ice cream and donuts and a pumpkin spice latte. Right? What we should be craving innately, naturally, is things like maybe some fruit, some meat, right, with lots of good fat. Okay? But we don't. So it's easy for us, and then we crave more, and then we feel better. Then you get these highs and lows when you eat foods that are simple sugars. You get huge spikes in blood sugar, huge spikes of insulin. What happens in the body is that when you're getting tons of insulin release and then no insulin, and then tons of insulin release and then no insulin release, the body ends up if that becomes a pattern, the body stops listening to the insulin that you're releasing, right? And that's called insulin resistance. Then what happens is that because the cells of your body are so full of stuff, they go, we can't take anymore. Right? So then your body stops listening to these cells, and then that's when your blood sugar levels now just go high and they begin to stay high. Okay? When you have more food floating around, when more stuff floating around in your blood, this will lead to premature aging. Your cells will die faster. Okay? Blood vessels get hurt. We're going to talk about cancer, we're going to talk about heart disease, but this is setting the body up. Insulin resistance sets the stage for all of these types of problems to begin. Now, when you have something that's a low glycemic index, or let's say you even eat something that is high glycemic index with fiber, right, or protein, what that does is it helps to lower or slow down the release and the drop of sugar. So it's way easier for your body to manage. If your body's trying to keep your blood sugar level in this range, it's much easier to do that with a low glycemic index food. All simple carbs, all sugar is going to be what? High or low? High, okay. Vegetables are very low glycemic index, nuts are very low glycemic index. Fruits can be very, even though there's lots of good stuff in fruit for you, antioxidants they're full of, right? There's lots of good stuff in fruits, it can still be high in the glycemic index. Okay? One of the things we went over, we did some research, red wine, what do you guys think about red wine? Lots of sugar? Actually not, because it's all what? Gets fermented. It starts out with a lot of sugar, so there you go. Life's not totally bad, right? I forgot to go over that. You can still have your red wine, you can still have the beer. Unless you have what did we say that was high? Guinness?
Stout, yeah,
Stouts.
Guinness.
Right? Anything, those really dark, thick beers, those beers that you drink and just hair grows on your chest, that high in sugar. Okay, those are the good ones.
And what about white wine?
White wine's a little bit higher, but not much. Like you're talking about for a glass of white wine, it was like 1.3 grams.
Okay.
Red wine was like 0.8 or 0.9 or something like that. So you're looking at about a gram of sugar, because again, it gets fermented. That's what the yeast eats. Right?
Oh, so that's the fermented.
Yes, so the sugar is being eaten. And we'll talk about this a little bit, because one of the big problems, one of the other things is that the sugar that we eat, most of us have bacteria, well, all of us should have bacteria in our gut, yes or yes? Okay? What we tend to do though is the good bacteria gets killed and the bad bacteria grows, and the most common bad bacteria that we grow is, just said it? Yeast. We eat a lot of stuff that has yeast in it, and then when we eat all this sugar, we're just given this yeast fuel. Right? This yeast to grow multiply. And then even if you live right, if you're overrun with yeast, it actually makes it really hard for the good bacteria to repopulate that gut. Okay? And I could spend an hour going over the importance of the healthy gut bacteria in your immune system, your mood, your energy levels, right? Bloating, just regularity when it comes to, just digestion, right? All that stuff. Okay? So, any question with the glycemic index? Type 2 diabetes? right? There's two ways to deal with this. You decrease the amount of sugar, or you increase the amount of fiber and that sort of stuff that you're eating with your sugar. Most of us, again, can stand to decrease the amount of sugar. But even with, we don't have any fruit here today, but nothing wrong with eating fruit, but you need to eat some nuts and that sort of stuff with the fruit as well to help balance that out. It's really good for you. If you have type 2 diabetes, I would, tell you what, if you cut out sugar and start walking, moving a little bit, like, I say that a little bit sarcastically, you need to start moving your butt a little bit, right? It's controllable. It's not a genetic thing. It's not like you're hardwired into that. That would be type 1. And even that can change if it's not truly hardwired, because there's other things that go with it. Cancer. We just did a month ago, was our last one. Cancer, who was here for the cancer workshop? So some of this we went over. Basically, the very simple thing here is that sugar is fuel for cancer cells. Okay? The cells of the human body, and we're going to talk about this a lot when it comes to brain function. We all think that the cells of the body are there to run on glucose. Your muscles run on glucose. Your muscles need glucose. Okay? That's rocket fuel for muscles. You need that, just like cancer cells. The better type of fuel for the human body to run on is what? Fat. Peter? Not protein. Okay, but what's really interesting about that is that, so really the hierarchy for efficiency, the best way is to burn on fat. Okay, we're going to talk about the ketogenic diet and ketosis a little bit. Okay, that's ketosis. Then sugar. Lastly, protein. What's interesting is that when your body becomes type 2 diabetic, okay, you become insulin resistant, and you start having cortisol floating around in your body actually stores any fat that you make, or any fat that you have. It will not burn fat, it will burn sugar until you crash, and then if you don't have enough fuel, you will start to burn protein over fat. So cortisol, which gets released with insulin, so when you're type 2 diabetic and you start releasing more insulin, you're also going to release more cortisol. This is the thing, a lot of people that are like, it's just, we try and lose weight, it's hard. There's a hormonal component to this that your body's wiring is just set you up so that you'll burn protein, if you don't do it correctly, before you burn fat, and or even sugar. Okay? We won't get into more of that. Now, cancer cells cannot run on fat. One of the things that makes a cancer cell different is lost its ability to run on fat. It can only run on sugar. Glucose. Okay? So, if you're insulin resistant, what are your blood sugar levels going to be? Higher, right? If you're eating more sugar, and here's the thing, we talked about this at Cancer Workshop. How many of us have cancer? Put your hands up. Everyone better put their hands up. Okay? We need to understand this. We all have cancer cells, right? There are cancer cells inside of us right now. The reason that we are not, hopefully, that cancer isn't growing is because we're either killing it effectively, which we talked at the Cancer Workshop. Sugar and your immune system are the big factors that go into cancer. How well that immune system is hunting and destroying those cancer cells. We develop cancer tumors because we're growing it faster than we can kill it. Right? The more sugar, you're just giving that cancer cell an advantage. Cancer cells are very fastly growing cells, and they need lots of protein, but they also need sugar to keep going. Right? If you don't have sugar in your body, they can't grow. If you know anyone dealing with cancer and the hospital's feeding them Jell-O, smack the hospital. Smack your friend or family member. I don't care if it hurts them, because they need to understand that is like, we don't eat properly like that. Whenever we're sick, when we have things like cancer, that's what drives me nuts about like October, right? We have all this money that gets raised, and all that money that we're raising goes to what? Yeah, it usually goes to the, there's no prevention money.
Treatment.
Yeah, it's and it's chemo, radiation. We're trying to find new ways to, right? We got to find the cure for cancer by inventing more drugs. Right? The cure isn't not getting it. The cure isn't understanding that, listen, you get cancer because you stop killing it faster than it's growing. That's the idea. And if you have cancer, you have to do the right stuff. You can't just cut it out. I mean, you can do that, and that might be even necessary, right? But you still have to, most people that go through cancer and even successfully get through it, if they don't make lifestyle changes and figure out why the cancer is growing, they're not left in a better place, right? They may live a little bit, but you know, and I've seen this closely with my own family members. Like the surgery is, and the chemo they go through. I told my wife, I'm like, I wouldn't even go that route if I got cancer. Like I wouldn't even go that route, right? I wouldn't be the, I'm gonna do 80% of this stuff. I would go 100% hardcore, like, right? I would be just crazy with everything lifestyle-wise. I would be as perfect as I could be. And part of me thinks that, you know, I do say this sometimes, that we should all live like we have cancer. Like that's the best way to never, ever, ever get it, is to just live like that perfectly. But, you know, having your pumpkin spice latte occasionally. Okay. So anyway, I don't even know how I got it. So we discovered a little while ago that sugar, glucose, simple sugars, right? Glucose in the bloodstream is the main fuel for cancer. It is rocket fuel for cancer cells. Interestingly, this is another thing. Not only does sugar feed cancer cells that are already growing, sugar will increase inflammation in the body, which we're going to talk a little bit more when it comes to heart disease. But inflammation is, when the body is more inflamed, you make it easier for cancer cells to grow. Okay, so inflammation is one of those things that not only grow, but grow and metastasize and spread. The immune system is weaker when the body's inflamed, and you're having more blood flow in different areas of the body. Inflammation is a good thing, but we put the body into a way higher inflammatory acidic state when we eat too much sugar. When the body burns sugar for fuel, you're always going to burn sugar for muscles. Okay, but when the body burns sugar predominantly as its fuel source rather than fat, it's the difference between like burning a diesel engine and a natural gas engine, right? Or you're burning diesel versus propane. But if you had to cook your grill and you had to use diesel fuel to cook your nice filet mignons, that wouldn't be very good. Right? Doesn't burn clean. Sugar, when you burn sugar, it doesn't burn as clean as fat. When you actually burn fat, you produce ketones. Okay. When you digest fat, you burn ketones. Okay, when you digest fat, it turns into ketones, which is the fuel. When you're burning, and it burns very clean. You make carbon dioxide basically. When you burn sugar, you produce all these little free radicals. Okay, free radicals are these oxidized compounds that basically cause damage to mitochondria in the cell. They cause damage to DNA, and they can further cause mutations inside of the body. Does that make sense to you guys? We've heard about free radicals. Right? That's why what antioxidants are compounds that you eat. A lot of them come from fruits and vegetables that help to bind or bond to those free radicals and neutralize them so they can't do harm. Okay? So when not only is sugar a fuel source for cancer cells, it also produces more free radicals in the body as well. Okay? Let's move on with cancer. Oh, same thing. Inflammation and heart disease. We talked a lot about this at our cholesterol workshop. The problem is not with, like we always say, what are the risk factors for heart disease? Okay, well, we've got high cholesterol and blood pressure and that sort of stuff. Increased sugar. The research shows that the more sugar you consume, typically the higher your blood pressure is. So you're already increasing one risk factor right there. Okay, increased sugar consumption will increase blood pressure. The fact with cholesterol, though, this is the interesting thing about cholesterol. Now we're going to get into fructose. Okay, the problem is not with cholesterol. The problem is when cholesterol becomes oxidized. Right, so and I could spend an hour on this. So I didn't have this much in here because how many people have been to our heart disease workshop? Okay, a couple here. I'm sure you've been to it. You
don't think so?
No. So how much do I go into this? Okay, so cholesterol, because again I do a whole workshop on this. Most of your cholesterol in your body comes from what? Don't answer if you know. This is what we know. So let me ask you this. Food that you eat produced inside of the body. Where is it produced inside of the body? Liver. So 90% of the cholesterol, when you're measuring your blood cholesterol levels, 90% of that came from your own liver producing it. Remember back in the 80s, maybe even the 90s, all of the packaging was like cholesterol free. Remember? They don't see that anywhere anymore, right? Because that was a great selling tactic, right? It's like, I'm not kidding you. I have shampoo at my house that says gluten-free on it. I'm like, who's eating shampoo? Right? There's all these buzzwords, right? It's raw sugar. Oh, it's raw, it's good for me. Oh, it's gluten-free, it's good for me. like, it's amazing what we'll buy. We're silly people, right? We'll buy anything, okay? But this cholesterol, we're told that, oh, cholesterol is bad for us. So now, what we're told is if you don't eat cholesterol, you'll be fine. You gotta lower your cholesterol. You can't eat animal fat. It's bad for you to produce, there's cholesterol in it. It's gonna clog your arteries. You can eat a ton of cholesterol. Your liver just has to make less. And it will make less to keep your levels where they're supposed to be. So your cholesterol levels are not an accidental thing. They're not based upon your diet. Your body produces them depending on what you need. The purpose of cholesterol, okay, is to, it's found in every cell in your entire body. And again, I shouldn't even go into all of this. When an artery gets torn, or when there's damage to an artery, okay, which, as I said earlier, sugar damages blood vessels, okay, which is why people that have like diabetics, they get like that. A lot of them have like the, the discoloration of their skin. They have, they've got arterial damage and neuropathy. Nerves and blood vessels don't do well with high sugar levels, okay.